saying that we are not only carbon neutral, but we are carbon negative. That's the fact. We have a forest coverage of 72%. And our constitution mandates that forest coverage should be maintained at all times at 60%. But having said that, I think if our partners across the world doesn't play their equal roles and responsibilities, and doesn't keep up their words, I think smaller nations cannot make much difference. The biggest challenge for Bhutan, because of the climate change effect, is the glacial lake outburst. We are highly susceptible and vulnerable to glove. And third important aspect that actually bothers me day-on-day basis is the widening trade deficit. That's also a macroeconomic imbalance. So basically, we are, I think, India being our largest trading partner, with the presence of Honorable Minister, Honorable S. Jaishankar here, India has been doing a wonderful, facilitating in every sphere for Bhutan. But further, I think there are scopes where, country like Bhutan needs to actually discuss and dive deeper into understanding a lot of problems along the borders with regard to non-tariff barriers. So that I thought that I will be raising at a different level with the honorable ministers from Government of India, and of course with the Honorable S. Jaishankar here. So these are three important aspects that I see that for a small landlocked country like Bhutan, if we don't find a solution, a prominent solution, which of course should be sustainable, I think post-pandemic recovery will be an uphill task for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last but not the least, let me turn to the Honorable Finance Minister of the Maldives, His Excellency Mr. Ibrahim Amir, and ask him the same question. Mr. Minister, what are the three things which are at the top of your mind when you go to work every day in Malé?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to really thank the Pune International Center and also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from India for giving me this opportunity. It gives me great pride in sharing the stage with Honorable Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and as well Minister of Finance from Bhutan, a dear friend of mine. As the Minister of Finance, the way I think about these three things at the current point of time may be vastly different from others. Everyone here will know Maldives as a destination for sun, sand, and the sea. But I believe we have a lot to offer. Maldives is not a poor country. Maldives now is a upper middle income country. And as the Minister of Finance, Ambassador, the three things that really bothers me right now is actually, as mentioned, number one, climate change. As you know, Maldives is very much prone to the effects of climate change. Our very existence is threatened by the changes in climate change. And a large part of our budget is spent on climate adaptation and climate mitigation efforts. And if you look at the numbers from 2011 till now, we have spent around $587 million on the climate adaptation and climate mitigation efforts. Maldives is very low lying, and why it bothers me is that so far we have not been able to tap into the climate finances, cheap climate finances that is being pledged by the developed countries in several COP meetings. So because of that, we are forced to go to the markets, borrow at a higher cost, and then make sure our islands are there for the tourists to come, and we are there. The other thing
अपनी
is,
जमीन दो, नौकरी
second thing is the external
इनका
shocks.
शीर्षक ये भी है
Namely,
अपनी
very
जमीन दो,
recently we have the
गरीब हो
COVID,
तो क्या है?
and now we have
तुम्हारी
the
जमीन पे मेरा
war
हक
in
है।
Ukraine.
तुम अपनी जमीन दो,
During
हम तुम्हें
COVID, as
नौकरी
you
देंगे।
know, Maldives is very
कानून
much
नियम को ताक
reliant
करके।
on tourism, and we closed our
और-
borders for 3 months, and
आज
our
देखिए,
economy declined by around
मुझे
33%.
आप सबके समक्ष
Maldives was
तथ्य
one of the
रखना।
worst hit countries during
नीतीश
COVID,
कुमार जी
but it really showed the resilience of our
पहले
tourism
बार-बार
sector, that
आरोप
we
लगाते
were
थे।
also one
कहते
of the
थे,
countries that rebounded very
लालू
strongly in
प्रसाद यादव,
2021 and
राबड़ी
even
देवी की
2022.
तेजस्वी
And
यादव पर कार्रवाई
now
होनी
we
चाहिए,
actually,
कड़ी कार्रवाई,
we
क्योंकि
have
ये
surpassed
भ्रष्टाचार
where we were in 2019, and our
27
tourism
सितंबर
sector is
2021
faring better than we were in
जनता
2019.
दल यूनाइटेड का
And also, as the
tweet
Minister of
है,
Finance,
नीतीश कुमार जी
I
द्वारा
am
ही
also
किया गया।
always
क्या कहता
thinking about the developmental
नेता प्रतिपक्ष
challenges.
को ये बताना चाहिए कि
All the
जिस
more
लालूवाद
important because
विचारधारा से आप आते हैं,
during COVID,
उसी
our
विचारधारा
GDP
में
declined,
बिहार
our
के
government
तमाम
revenue
किसानों के
declined,
साथ छल किया।
and our debt
जमीन
situation
दो,
also got
नौकरी दो के
worsened.
नाम पर
And
जमीन लिखवा ली गई।
we cannot delay
उसमें
development.
चरवाहा
We
विद्यालय
cannot
खोलकर
have
महापाप
10, 15 years for
ये
water and
नीतीश कुमार
sanitation
जी का
projects, climate
जनता दल
adaptation
यूनाइटेड के
projects.
ट्विटर हैंडल से
So how do we make sure that
आप
we
कह रहे
have
थे इसमें
developmental
कार्रवाई होनी
projects
चाहिए।
and then also
आज
be mindful of our fiscal
कार्रवाई हो रही है।
sustainability and also our debt sustainability
जनता ये
issues.
जानना चाहती है कि
So,
पलटू राम आपको
in short,
जनता इसीलिए कहती
number
है।
one, climate change. Number two, the
आप
external
कभी कोई
shocks, the
स्टैंड
the
लेते हैं।
COVID and also
और
the
अगर
Ukraine war. I
सहूलियत
I
होती
would
है,
also like to
पलट
highlight,
जाते
because
हैं।
of the Ukraine-Russia war,
क्या आपने ये मांग
the
नहीं
small
करी थी
island
नीतीश
nations
कुमार
like the Maldives and
कि लालू
I
प्रसाद
believe
यादव जी
the
पे
Bhutan, also
राबड़ी देवी
most
जी
of the countries,
तेजस्वी यादव
because of the increase in oil prices,
भ्रष्टाचार
increase in
के
food prices,
गंभीर
it
आरोप है,
really
इसलिए कार्रवाई होनी
affected our fiscal
आज
space. So that is also some a
जब
very
कार्रवाई हो
worrying
रही है,
aspect of
तो ये
this
जो
war.
भ्रष्टाचारी हैं,
And thirdly, the developmental
दृष्टया
efforts.
जिनको
How do
न्यायालय
we
से
make sure that there is
ना इनका
continuation
मामला
of our
निरस्त हो रहा है,
developmental
ना-
projects? Thank you.
कई ऐसे
Thank you.
मामले हैं जब बेल भी नहीं मिल रही।
Minister Jaishankar, if
तो
I could
आपको ये बताना चाहिए
ask you and ask you to elaborate on
कि
India's
आज
approach to its presidency of the
आप तथ्यों पे
G20.
बात क्यों नहीं?
What are the major themes that we
अगर
want
आप
to take
लोगों
up?
का
I saw from some
कहना
of the
ये है
recent
कि राजनीतिक
developments
द्वेष
that
से
we
ये
want to
मामले हो रहे
voice
हैं।
the opinions of the global south. If you could talk a
तो फिर
little
ये
bit to
बताइए
that
कि
issue.
न्यायालय जाके
Also, in different cities of India, we have
ये
felt the
सारे
impact
जो
of the
मुकदमे
G20.
हैं,
It is
इनको
one of the
निरस्त क्यों नहीं
objectives of
करा?
this government to take the G20 to different parts
और
of
देखिए,
India.
विरोधाभास
And
एक
we've
और
had
है।
one meeting at least, if not more, here in Pune.
मनीष
And we
सिसोदिया
saw
की
how it did positively impact Pune at that
गिरफ्तारी
time.
हुई।
So could I request you to talk a little more about
जब ये गिरफ्तारी
India's
हुई तो
ideas
कांग्रेस ने
behind its
इस
presidency of
गिरफ्तारी
the
का
G20?
स्वागत किया।
Gautam, let me
उसने कहा,
do
ये
one
ठीक
thing. Let me
गिरफ्तारी।
take it in three parts.
जनता कह रही है कि
How are we
ये कैसे
how are
मापदंड
we
हैं
going
जिसमें
about
ये
the
भ्रष्टाचारी
G20
कहते हैं?
presidency?
मेरा
Number
भ्रष्टाचार
two, what you said
बहुत अच्छा।
about the
इस
voice
भ्रष्टाचार
of the
में
global
कोई
south.
गलती नहीं करी
And three, what
और
are our
दूसरे का
expectations
भ्रष्टाचार खराब है
of
इसके खिलाफ कार्रवाई
what's going
करें।
to come out of the G20?
क्या ये कोई
I
पैमाना
would
हो
say
सकता
on the first one, the
मैं इतना ही
G20
कहूंगा।
today, it began out in 2008 as a
पुराना
very immediate
कांग्रेस
response
सरकार
to
का
the global
समय था।
financial crisis. I think many of you are very
न्यूज़पेपर खोलिए
intimately familiar
केवल
with it.
घोटाला
And over a period of
2G
time,
घोटाला,
with each
122
G20
स्पेक्ट्रम के
presidency,
लाइसेंस सर्वोच्च
more
न्यायालय ने
and
रद्द
more
किए।
layers and facets were added.
कोलगेट घोटाला
So,
कांग्रेस के समय का
environment
214
got in, health got in,
जो
foreign
माइनिंग के
policy
लाइसेंस थे उसको
got
सुप्रीम
in,
कोर्ट ने
business
रद्द
got
किए।
in, youth. So it's
CWG घोटाला,
today there are actually
खेल भी
15
कराएंगे तो
tracks,
उसमें भी
15
अपनी
ministerial
कमीशन अपना
tracks.
कट।
The heart of the G20
जीजा जी,
is still very much finance.
जीजा जी
It's
घोटाला,
still very much finance.
किसानों
It's
की
still very
जमीन
much
हड़प रहे हैं।
development. The mandate of
आज
the G20 is really
जनता की
growth
उम्मीद ये
and
है
development.
कि कोई भी
Now,
भ्रष्टाचार
how are we going to go about it?
उस
because it has
भ्रष्टाचारी को
developed
ये
so many
एहसास हो कि कानून का
aspects,
डंडा कितना मजबूत है
facets. There
आज
are
जनता
roughly
की
about
उम्मीद ये
200
है।
meetings which any
और
president,
इसीलिए आदरणीय
any country
प्रधानमंत्री
which is
श्री
holding the
नरेंद्र मोदी जी
presidency
को आशीर्वाद
has to
दिया
organize in the space of that year.
कि
So
इन
when we
भ्रष्टाचारियों को ये
started
पता चले
thinking
कि
about
कानून से ऊपर ये नहीं है।
Prime Minister had, this thought that it should
और
not be a
सबसे बड़ी बात है,
capital-centric exercise,
जनता की ये उम्मीद है
nor should it be, a mice
जो भ्रष्टाचारी ये
industry
सोचते हैं
exercise. So you don't want people to get off
भ्रष्टाचार
the
मेरा
plane,
जन्म
go to
सिद्ध
the
अधिकार
meeting,
है।
do the hotel
जनता
dinner,
कह
get on a
रही
plane
है,
and go back. And you don't want them to do
न्याय
Delhi
होना।
and, maybe Agra, Jaipur and say, okay,
भ्रष्टाचार
I've
से
seen
जो रुपया
India,
वसूला है,
this is
उसको
I've had
वापस
3 pictures
इन
and
लोगों
I'm
से
back.
वसूलना और जनता के हित में
idea
लगाना
was,
ये जनता
this
का
is an
अधिकार है,
opportunity
ये लोकतंत्र का अधिकार
for the world to get to
और
know
इसी
India
सोच
better.
से
So
जांच
get
एजेंसियां
people to
अपना
travel
कार्य
to
करती हैं।
every province of India, to
जब
different
भ्रष्टाचारी
cities of India,
पकड़े
cities
जाते
which are
हैं,
not and towns which are not normally used to
तो ये कभी
hosting
भी
international
उस मुद्दे पर बात नहीं
conventions and
करते।
meetings. Obviously, there's a kind of a threshold they should have.
इनमें
to
इतनी नैतिकता नहीं
infrastructure
बची
to,
कि ये बाहर निकल कर
to
आए
deal
और
with.
जनता को बताएं कि आरोप ये हैं
The
और
advantage of
सत्य ये है,
doing
ये
this
प्रमाण
is,
है, ये साक्ष्य
considering
है।
there are,
और देखिए हम
there are
आपकी
200
अदालत में भी
meetings
आए हैं
and,
और
each
हम
one
सिद्ध
of
कर
them will
रहे हैं
have
कि
at
हम
the
लोग
very least a
ईमानदार
few hundred
नहीं, अंदर से ये
delegates
जानते
and
हैं
officials who will
कि
come.
इन्होंने भ्रष्टाचार
Just look
किया
at the
है,
total number of people who will
जनता की
actually be
गाड़ी
visiting
कमाई
us
को
from foreign
लूटा है
countries in that year.
और
And
इसीलिए
these are, in today's parlance,
ये ना
in
न्यायालय
their
जाते हैं
respective societies, they're all
और ना
influencers
जो सवाल जनता पूछ रही
every
है
kind. So you have actually, by
उसका ये
spreading
उत्तर
it across the country, this is a kind of a
तीसरा,
marketing
हमने
of
देखा
India to
BRS
the influential people of those
की नेत्री हैं,
countries
के
and
कविता।
changing their thinking, exposing India
इसका
to
शीर्षक
them,
हो,
exposing India
Give me the
in
money.
every sense, the cultural
need money, give me
diversity,
the money.
the socio-economic
क्यों ऐसा कह रहे
changes
हैं?
which are taking place, the energy and the
इनका
sort
एक
of
साक्षात्कार
enthusiasm
चल
today,
रहा था।
among people, the cuisine,
उसमें
the art,
इनसे
the music.
पूछा
So that's
गया,
one side
उनको
of it.
मौका मिला।
The other side is also every time
आप बताइए
a
कि
town or a
आपका
city or a
Indo spirit
university
से
or a institution,
बुच्ची
they
बाबू,
host such a meeting.
बुच्ची
Now,
बाबू
I've come from
और
earlier in the day to see
अरुण
this,
पिल्लई, इनसे
and
कोई
they are
संबंध
hosting
नहीं।
the Youth 20 meeting. Now, for
अगर
them,
कोई
it's a big deal.
ईमानदार व्यक्ति होगा,
They are, everybody is excited about it, everybody is
इसके
getting prepared about it.
किसी भी कृत्य
Some months
में
ago, I went to Imphal.
कोई गलत कार्य, कानून
all
तोड़ने
we
वाला
did,
कृत्य ना हो, तो वो
as
कहेगा मेरा
part
इनसे
of
कोई लेना देना
what was their
स्पष्ट।
major festival, we actually
No if and but,
opened what was a
स्पष्ट।
G20
कोई लेना
photo,
देना नहीं है।
photo booth kind
ये
of.
जो
There was
के
a
कविता
logo
की
with
पूछताछ चल रही है।
leaves on all sides. You stand
कटनी
up.
पुलिस कप्तान से शिकायत करने पहुंचे कारी पाथर तहसील सलीमनाबाद जिला कटनी निवासी यमशेद दुबे पिता स्वर्गीय देवदत्त सिंह दुबे ने
Part of it. Yeah. This
तो
too
इसीलिए
is
इस मंच
part
से भी
of
दोबारा ये सवाल पूछा
developing
जाना
an
चाहिए।
awareness in the country.
ये जो
about
शराब घोटाला है,
And we should do that. We need to do that. We are actually
जिसके
behind
किंग
the
पिन
curve.
अरविंद
We
केजरीवाल
are
हैं,
today the 5th largest economy in the world. We
उसमें
will be the
के
3rd
कविता जी
largest
आपको
economy
भी
very
जनता को
soon.
बताना
But
होगा
if you look at our significance to
कि आपका
the global
इंडो स्पिरिट
workplace,
से कोई लेना
and
देना
I have
है या
somebody like
नहीं,
Dr. Narayan Murthy sitting in front of me,
आपको ये बताना
our
होगा
significance to the
कि
global
बुच्ची बाबू
workplace is actually going to
सागर एसपी तरुण नायक एवं कलेक्टर दीपक आर्य ने बड़ी
fundamental
उमंग और
mismatch of the demand and supply when it
और
comes to talent and
प्रतीत ऐसा
skills
होता
today.
है,
And
सागर
countries
एसपी
in a
तरुण
knowledge economy are willing to take
ये
bold steps to fix it. So, as we say,
भ्रष्टाचार
this
इतना
is
बड़ा है।
getting the world India ready, is getting India world ready,
अब जब
and that's
सारी
the way
कड़ियां
this
जुड़
whole
रही
thing is being planned. Now, voice of the global south.
तो
Why
जनता
do we
को भी
need
पीड़ा
voice
हो
of the
रही
global
है
south?
कि इन
Because
भ्रष्टाचारियों
what
ने
we
किस
saw
तरह से
in the last year, and it's something which we had seen
जनता
not with
को
the same
लूटा है
degree of
और
disquiet,
अपनी
but
तिजोरियों को इन्होंने
especially
भरा।
last year it was very evident to us, which is one big problem
मैं बिल्कुल
was
स्पष्ट
taking
कर
up
दूं।
all the oxygen. And the
कोई भी
second
भ्रष्टाचारी हो,
order, third order
वो कानून से
consequences
ऊपर
of
नहीं
that,
है, कानून अपना काम
those were
करेगा
not being adequately
और इतनी
sort of
मजबूती से
appreciated.
करेगा
I mean, if you heard, I mean,
कि हर
our
भ्रष्टाचारी
two
को
finance ministers sitting,
कानून से
what is their concern? They are talking today of
डर लगे
the
कि
external
अगर हम
shocks
1 रुपए
which is
की भी
creating
भ्रष्टाचारी
fiscal stress on
दिखाएंगे
them
तो जेल
because
की
their
सजा को
oil
भी
prices
पीछे
are going up, their food
धन्यवाद।
prices are going up, They're worrying whether the
Any
fertilizer
questions?
prices, in fact, will the fertilizer be accessible apart from being affordable. So we felt that it was important that the entirety of global problems be put at the center of
देखिए
G20,
इसीलिए मैंने कहा
not just
victim
one
card
particular
और
issue,
emotional
and however important that issue might be.
एक
And
व्यक्ति
secondly, that if there is
जब
one
राजनीति
country
में है
among the G20,
और
which
उसके
the,
परिवार
you know, the
वाले घर
global
पर हैं,
south, the
मैं
global south
समझता
trusts
हूं कि
us,
उसको तो
whatever
और
you might say.
जिम्मेदारी
I mean,
से
there is that sense, and that sense, by the
अपनी
way, has been
जिम्मेदारी का
heightened by
निर्वहन
vaccine
करना
Maitri. You know, that if you go to Africa
कानून की
today,
नजरों
to the
में
Caribbean, to
और
parts
जनता
of
की
Asia,
आंखों
and
में
say, people say, yeah, you know, there's India at least, okay,
अपने
that guy
परिवार
will
वालों का
voice
हवाला
our
देना।
worries. So, but we
ये कोई
didn't
तर्क
want to
नहीं हो
do it with a sense of
ना
presumption.
ये किसी न्यायालय में
That, you know, we
चले
speak for everybody. We wanted a
परिवार
consultative
के जब
process. So, in fact,
सदस्य खुद
very painstakingly
भ्रष्टाचार के
last
आरोप
month,
में लिप्त हों
we did consultations.
लालू प्रसाद यादव,
This was the Prime Minister himself,
राबड़ी देवी,
myself, Finance
तेजस्वी
Minister,
यादव,
Trade Minister,
तेजस्वी
Environment
यादव जी
Minister.
की
We
बहन
spoke to
मीसा भारती।
125 countries at our level.
तो क्या जांच
And
एजेंसी अपना काम
today,
नहीं करेगी
and the basic conversation was G20 is
और
going to
जहां तक
happen.
timing
So
की
tell
बात
us
है,
what is your concern. You know, what is it? And then
मैं
you
ये
kind of
कहूंगा
make a
कि
distillate of
यही फर्क है।
that and articulate. it.
कांग्रेस के
And I think
समय
it's
में
important
सीबीआई
today.
पिंजरे का तोता है ये
Not just
सर्वोच्च
in the
न्यायालय ने
G20,
कहा
I
था
think part of the problems even
गांधी
with the
परिवार
UN
के
and the
घर
US
से तय
Security
होता था कि
is that
टाइमिंग
the
क्या
voice of
होगी।
global south is missing. If
कोई
there is
पार्टी
a
अगर support
logical,
withdraw कर लेती थी,
shall I say,
तो उसके घर
candidate
पर
for
सीबीआई ईडी पहुंचती थी
that responsibility,
और
it is
आज जांच
we
एजेंसियां
would be
निष्पक्ष
shirking our
अपना
duty
काम
if we
करती
didn't
हैं।
do that. Now, what
वो
will
जानती
happen
है
out of the
किससे
G20?
हमें
Look, it's a bit
पूछताछ
early
करनी है
because we have
और
to,
कब करनी
I
है।
think tomorrow the,
और मैं
the
समझता
finance
हूँ लोकतंत्र के लिए
meeting, physical meeting is taking place. The foreign ministers meeting is on the 1st and 2nd of March. We will have to go through a set of meetings to see
देखिए
what happens at G20
कांग्रेस
is
पार्टी
a lot of things are on slow
ऐसे
boil.
समय से गुजर रही है उसको
Now,
खुद
which
नहीं
one of
पता
them
है
gets cooked in one particular
कि
year
उनके नेता
is
क्या
difficult
करते
to
हैं,
say. You know,
उनका
it
मीडिया
has to
सेल
be
क्या करता
decided
है
amongst the G20.
और
But,
एक लाइन में अगर मुझे कहना हो
there are a set of issues, and I would like to reassure both our
140 करोड़
colleagues
भारतीय
that green finance is
आदरणीय
really right,
प्रधानमंत्री
absolutely
श्री
on top of the
नरेंद्र
issues.
मोदी
I mean,
जी को
today, if
आशीर्वाद
you ask
देते
me
हैं उनके
three
साथ
big
खड़े होते हैं
issues
और
in the
दूसरी
world,
तरफ
I would put really green finance.
वो ताकतें
Because
हैं जो
I'm
हमारे
not
देश
putting
को
green growth
कमजोर
because I
करना
think
चाहती
without
हैं
finance, people talk about
विदेशी
growth,
धरती पर
but
जाकर
they seem to think that ambitions
राहुल
should
गांधी
be
झूठ
diverse
बोलते
from
हैं
resources. The reality is
प्रधानमंत्री
we
जी के
haven't
लिए
moved that far
अपशब्द
ahead
कहना
because the
ही
resources are
कांग्रेस
not there.
पार्टी
So
का
I
अब
would,
चरित्र हो
I
गया
think
लेकिन
this will take a little while
गुजरात
to
के
emerge,
विधानसभा
probably
चुनाव
really till the summit.
इस बात का प्रमाण है
Thank you, Minister.
कि सत्य की जीत
The
होती है
Maldives and Bhutan are both
और जनता
part of the global
भारतीय
south.
जनता पार्टी के
So let
नेतृत्व
me
में
start by
पूरी आस्था
asking
रखती है।
the Honorable Finance Minister of the Maldives, Mr. Minister, what are your expectations at this point of time as the world is exiting the COVID pandemic, as we look for greater growth, as your
देखिए,
fiscal space
सवाल तो
shrinks,
ये
as
होना
you
चाहिए,
rightly said? What
टाइमिंग
are
पे
your
मैं उत्तर दे
expectations
चुका हूं,
from the
इसलिए दोहराऊंगा
G20?
नहीं। सवाल तो
And
ये होना
so
चाहिए।
let me request the Honorable Finance Minister
मुझे
of
जमीन
the
दो,
Maldives to go first,
मैं तुम्हें
and
नौकरी
then
दूंगा।
request Honorable
जांच
Finance
6
Minister
महीने
of
पहले
Bhutan
शुरू हुई।
to answer the same question.
और अगर मान ले लालू
Thank
प्रसाद
you.
यादव
Thank you very
तेजस्वी
much.
यादव का तर्क
I
6 महीने
believe
पर्याप्त समय
for
होता है
countries
न्यायालय
like
जाते हैं
Maldives,
पूरा मुकदमा निरस्त
it
करते
is very important
अंदर से
in order
जानते
to
हैं
address the
भ्रष्टाचार
issues of climate change
किसानों की जमीन
that
बढ़ती है
we
और
have
नीतीश कुमार का
cheaper
जो मैंने आपको
financing
ट्वीट दिखाया
available.
वो अपने आप में
At the
दर्शाता है
moment, we also have
लालू
to
प्रसाद
make sure
यादव,
that we carry out
राबड़ी देवी,
developmental
तेजस्वी
projects.
ये
During
लोग
COVID,
भ्रष्ट हैं और
you
कानून
saw
अपना
that
काम कर रहे हैं।
because of the decline in GDP, our debt to GDP numbers went up to around 150%. Now again, because increase in tourist arrivals, tourism sector is faring better than expected. Our GDP is also now increasing. So we see that the debt numbers are also coming down. In order to make sure that
देखिए
we have
unity किसी
fiscal
मुद्दे पे
space
हो
and also
जो
carry
जनता
out
के हित में हो,
developmental
अच्छा
projects.
है।
We need
भ्रष्टाचारियों की यूनिटी
climate
हो,
financing which
ये
is cheaper.
उन
But
पार्टियों के लिए भी अच्छा नहीं है और
the,
जनता भी इसका
so
विरोध
far
करती है।
during
और
different COP
सिर्फ इतना ही
meetings,
कहूंगा कि जब जांच
around
एजेंसियां अपना
$100
काम कर रही
billion
हैं,
have been pledged. But
कानून
we
के
have
दायरे
not
में रह के उन्हें
been
अपना
able
काम
to tap
करने
into
दिया जाना
this
चाहिए।
climate financing and
और ये जो ओछी
use
हल्की
this
राजनीति
financing to make sure
की जा
that
रही है,
we are able
ये
to
अपने
use
आप में
this funding
दर्शाता है
for
कि
very
अंदर ही अंदर वो
important
जानते हैं कि उन्होंने भ्रष्टाचार
climate
किया है।
adaptation projects
वो डरे हुए हैं,
and mitigation
डर-
projects for countries like the Maldives. And in the Maldives, it is always an emergency. We cannot wait
I've already answered that
1-2 years for the project to documentation to be complete, and after 2-3 years we get the funding. And when we get the funding,
I think I've already
the island is
answered
not
that
there
question.
anymore.
I'll not try to repeat.
20-30% of our islands
I
are
would only
eroded
take-
by
take
if we
more
don't
time
do
and answer your
anything
question
for
elaborately.
let's say 2-3 years.
I
So it is
challenge
always an emergency situation, and we are forced to
Rajak
use
Aparad
our
Party,
budgets,
the BAP
our
party,
own domestic resources
the
to make
RJD
sure that
and the other
we
parties.
have climate
show
adaptation
one order
measures
of
सागर
like
एसपी
building
तरुण नायक
coastal
एवं कलेक्टर
protection,
दीपक
like building the harbors as
where
well.
under the Modi
So I
regime,
believe
the proceedings
at the top
have been
of
quashed.
the
I challenge from this
G20
one order
agenda,
of the Honorable Supreme Court or the
the
High Court,
climate,
where
the
the
issue of
proceedings
climate
of the
financing,
EDCPI
green
have been
financing
quashed,
is
and the
very
reason is
important.
political vendetta.
And now I have had various discussions with other multilateral organizations like IMF, World Bank, and others as well. Green financing, climate
को नमस्कार।
financing, or any other
ये
financing,
प्रेस वार्ता
there is no differentiation.
एक प्रमुख
Even
बिंदु
with,
पे है।
with climate financing, there are a lot
जैसा
of conditions.
सभी
And I
channels
believe
पर देखा जा
there
रहा है।
shouldn't be any conditions with climate financing.
जितने
The only thing should be
क्षेत्रीय
that
दल
it should be earmarked for climate
भ्रष्टाचार
adaptation
में
projects
लिप्त हैं।
and climate mitigation projects.
और उन
If
पे
you look
जांच
at, let's say, for
एजेंसियां जब
example,
कार्रवाई कर रही हैं,
what is the rating of the country and what are the
तो वो कभी
macroeconomic
victim card खेल रहे हैं,
fundamentals, and then make
कभी वो
available this
emotional
climate
card खेल रहे
financing,
हैं।
I believe it defeats the problem.
सागर एसपी
Because,
तरुण नायक
और
we are planning to go to the market and
सवाल
issue
जनता ये
green
पूछ
and
रही है
blue bonds, but
कि जो जनता के सवाल
green,
हैं,
blue, or any other color you give,
उनका उत्तर आप
these
क्यों नहीं
financing does not differentiate with any conventional financing, because
सारे
at the end of the
भ्रष्टाचारी
day we get the same same
पकड़े जा रहे हैं
rates
बारी-बारी।
as any conventional financing. So I believe there should be some kind of an architecture where mechanism
दो
where
तीन दिन में हमने देखा किस तरह से
mostly climate vulnerable nations and more importantly
कट्टर बेईमान
small island developing states who are at the forefront of climate
उपमुख्यमंत्री
change should be
सागर एसपी
able to
तरुण
get,
नायक एवं कलेक्टर दीपक
अरविंद
आर्य ने बड़े
केजरीवाल
climate
की
financing
भ्रष्टाचारी
because,
कठपुतली
and it should be yesterday and
Sa-
not today or tomorrow.
मनीष सिसोदिया
Thank you. And if I could turn to you, Linpo,
उनको-
and ask you the same question, how does Bhutan,
ना
what are
CBI
Bhutan's
न्यायालय से कोई
expectations
राहत मिली।
from the G20?
Thank you very much,
और
Mr.
कल
Gautam.
एक आदेश
First of all, let me take this
सीबीआई और ईडी
opportunity
की जो
to
न्यायालय है उसने
congratulate
उनको
India under the
ईडी
leadership
की
of
कस्टडी
सागर
में
एसपी
पूछा
तरुण
जा
नायक
रहा है।
एवं कलेक्टर दीपक आर्य ने बड़े उमंग और उत्साह के
assuming,
साथ ढोल बाजे एवं
for
डीजे
the
पर
presidency
थिरकते हुए
सात
मनाई होली
दिन के लिए
पुलिस
and
स्टाफ
of
के
course,
साथ होली खेलते
for
हुए
Prime Minister,
आए
Honorable
नजर
Prime Minister for
कस्टडी में
President
भेजा
सागर से भुजबल जोगी की खास रिपोर्ट
I think
जो
before I
बात
jump on to the expectation, I would
सभी
like
मीडिया
to,
चैनल्स पर भी आ रही
with
थी
with conviction, I
सागर
would like
एसपी
to
तरुण नायक एवं कलेक्टर
Rally
दीपक
में
आर्य ने
तुम्हें
बड़े
कहा
उमंग
है
और
उस पे,
उत्साह के साथ
I
ढोल
personally-
बाजे एवं डीजे
Bhutan
पर
personally doesn't
थिरकते
have
हुए
Egypt
मनाई
with
होली
the
पुलिस
capability
स्टाफ के
of
साथ
India
होली खेलते हुए
to share
आए
this
नजर
world premiere
सागर से
for
भुजबल जोगी की खास
world
रिपोर्ट
leaders and the thinkers
मनीष
to
सिसोदिया
celebrate on the world
is a
orders.
must.
Uh,
ये जरूरी है आवश्यक
My special congratulations also
ये कोई
goes to
जांच
you, sir,
एजेंसी की
for
सुविधा नहीं
your
है।
leadership in that.
ये कोई राजनीतिक
When it
द्वेष नहीं
comes to
है।
G20, I think the only expectation as a small developing nation
शराब
would
घोटाला
be
शराब मंत्री
because
पूर्व में
I see
रहे,
that whatever agenda
उन्होंने
is
किया है
tabled for
इसकी
G20,
जड़ तक जाने के
probably
लिए
unlike
आवश्यक
the past G20,
कि इस
especially
भ्रष्टाचारी
after the
की
pandemic, the whole perception
custodial
and the
interrogation
perspective to how you look at the problem has
must.
changed. Because pandemic has brought in
दूसरा,
a lot of new perceptions,
एक
new innovations, the way we think,
कट्टर
the way we
ईमानदार
conduct
जिनको
our
कहती है
business.
पापी आप,
So for that matter, I think probably
पूर्व के उप
the
मुख्यमंत्री
core
के कृत्य
emphasis
देखिए।
of the upcoming
अगर
G20
ईमानदार
summit
इतने
in
होते,
India in September will basically, I
जो सवाल
assume
पूछे
in
जा
that
रहे हैं,
manner,
उसका
the
उत्तर
way
देते।
Honorable External Affairs
विनम्रता
Minister
से
was
देते।
making a mention
पाने के लिए
that
कुछ
it will be
नहीं।
more focused on the post-pandemic recovery,
मेरी
irrespective of the
चादर
size
साफ
of the
है।
country.
घोटाला किया नहीं।
Again, we don't have a
भारत
doubt
रत्न मुझे मिलना है।
on India that
लेकिन
by
कोर्ट क्या
representing
कह रहा
Global
है?
South, I think it also represents our
न्यायालय
voice.
कह रहा है
So for
कि
that matter, I think
किसी भी
the
प्रश्न
major
का
concern for us as a small developing nation will be the debt
उत्तर
distress in medium to long term.
मनीष सिसोदिया
So
नहीं
for
दे
that
रहे हैं
matter, I think
और
our
ये जांच
expectation
एजेंसियों से
and
सहयोग
as well
भी
you
नहीं
can
कर
describe as our request will be to
तो पहली बात custodial
look into
interrogation
relaxing
जरूरी है और
the global
दूसरा,
financial conditions because with the tightening
कृत्य
global
ये है
financial
कि ये
conditions
प्रश्नों
I
के
think it
उत्तर भी नहीं
is
देंगे।
incurring a lot of imposing a
तीसरी
lot
बड़ी
of
बात, ये
challenge on
सबसे
us
महत्वपूर्ण।
which we don't actually on our own don't find a solution to that.
आबकारी नीति
And
शराब
the
नीति
second would
वापस ली
be,
गई।
I think, because we need to understand that
अराजक
other than the
अपराध
pandemic,
पार्टी के
where
मित्रों ने ही
actually
इसे
the problem
बनाया।
has emerged, where problem has erupted,
अरविंद केजरीवाल ने
because
कहा
we never
ये
expected
शराब
Ukraine war.
व्यापारी
So
जो
for
है
that
मेरा
matter,
ही
I think
बेटा है, मेरा
G20 is a
लड़का है।
platform as well, beyond economic
इसमें
discussions,
मनीष
dialogues.
सिसोदिया
I think it is also, I perceive that it is also a
Instrumental
forum for the global leaders to discuss
मुख्य
on global
किरदार
peace,
कोई
prosperity
निभाता
and
है,
stability.
तो वो
Through
पूर्व
which
शराब मंत्री मनीष
you know,
सिसोदिया।
everything comes into order. And the
और
third
ये जो
point
जवाब दे
that
रहे
I
हैं, वो
expect
भी
would
असत्य
be,
हैं,
as
झूठ।
rightly mentioned by the Honorable External Affairs Minister,
7
on the
दिन
green
की
financing, which is very, very pertinent
इनको ईडी रिमांड
topic
पे
for
भेज
a
दिया
country
गया
like
और ये
Bhutan,
कहना गलत नहीं होगा
because
अगर
of our,
शीर्षक देना हो।
the efforts that we made in conserving the nature.
आज मनीष
So we see
सिसोदिया
this
कह रहे
as an
हैं
opportunity, as a
मुझको ना
means
उठाओ,
to meet the fiscal deficit
मैं
and also
भ्रष्टाचार के नशे
to
में
address the fiscal instability
मैं
issues.
भ्रष्टाचार के नशे में
Because
हूँ।
when you talk
मुझे
about
इसी
innovative financing, we
अवस्था में
only
रहने
think about issuance of grain bond. But
इसके
this
बाद
being a new concept,
हमने
I
देखा
think
किस तरह से
if this could be taken forward, and I think we see a lot of opportunities to leverage
बिहार
on
में
that.
भी
And lastly, but not the least, the expectation.
राज
I
और
think this goes as a
भ्रष्टाचार
wish
का
list,
पर्याय
a long list from my side, but nevertheless,
बनी
I see that
RJD,
when we actually access
जिन्होंने
the global
जानवरों का
financing, be it from the
चारा भी नहीं
multilateral
छोड़ा।
development banks or bilateral partners, I think the
ये भी
conditions
भ्रष्टाचार में पूरी
where
तरह से
we
लिप्त
access the financing, I think irrespective of the
ये नहीं
size of
बता
the
रहे हैं
economy, irrespective of the size of the country, the
कि
conditions
आपने
are, I would see that often
अपनी जमीन
is
दो,
seen.
नौकरी
So
लो।
basically in G20
इनका
forum,
शीर्षक ये भी है
because G20 members also
अपनी
largely
जमीन दो,
present in the World
तुम
Bank,
गरीब हो तो
ADB
क्या?
and other
तुम्हारी जमीन पे मेरा
NDBs.
हक
So we see
तुम
that
अपनी जमीन दोगे, हम तुम्हें
if there's
नौकरी
an
देंगे।
opportunity as to
कानून
represent
नियम
the
को
voice
ताक
of
पे
South,
रखेंगे।
global South, if there's an opportunity
और
for a smaller nation to
आज
have
देखिए
better constitutional conditions to access
मुझे
global financing.
आप
these are,
सबके समक्ष एक
like
तथ्य
basically
रखना है।
it goes like a shopping list, but I think if you really dive
नीतीश
deeper into
कुमार
it
जी
and understand, probably these are the
पहले
critical
बार-बार
issues
आरोप लगाते
that can really give a prominent
कहते
facelift for the smaller
लालू
economies like
प्रसाद
ours
यादव,
to
राबड़ी देवी जी,
recover in a
तेजस्वी यादव
sustainable
पर
manner in the
कार्रवाई होनी
post-pandemic
चाहिए,
world. Thank
कड़ी
you very much.
कार्रवाई, क्योंकि ये
Thank you.
भ्रष्टाचार है।
Thank you, Limpo. Honorable Minister
27
Jaishankar,
सितंबर
you mentioned
2021
neighborhood first. And my question to you
जनता दल
would be
यूनाइटेड
that, you know, previous
tweet
governments
है,
also
नीतीश
placed a
कुमार
lot of
जी द्वारा ही
importance on
किया
our
गया।
neighborhood, on our region,
कहता
on
है?
our South Asian region.
नेता प्रतिपक्ष को
But
ये
is there
बताना
something
चाहिए
that
कि जिस
your government is
लालूवाद
doing which is
विचारधारा
different from
से आप
earlier?
आते हैं,
Have we moved
उसी
into a
विचारधारा
higher
ने
gear
बिहार
where our
के
neighborhood is
तमाम किसानों
concerned?
के साथ छल
And
जमीन
I
दो,
would request you
नौकरी
to
दो
talk
के
a little
नाम
bit
पर
about our neighborhood
जमीन लिखवा ली गई।
and how we are
और उसमें
helping not just
चरवाहा
countries like the Maldives
विद्यालय खोलकर
and
महापाप
Bhutan who are present here today, but also other neighbors.
ये नीतीश कुमार जी का
You know, Gautam,
जनता दल यूनाइटेड
you and
के
I
ट्विटर
have
हैंडल से
been in this business a long time,
आप कह रहे
and
थे
a
इस
long
पे कार्रवाई
time
होनी
over
चाहिए।
multiple governments.
आज
So even though I'm in
कार्रवाई हो रही
politics
है।
today and you lead a more happier
जनता ये
existence,
जानना चाहती है कि पलटू राम
the fact
आपको
is,
जनता इसीलिए कहती है।
there are real changes, and I don't think
आप कभी कोई
these are not necessarily
stand
political
लेते हैं,
points that anybody
और
is
अगर
scoring.
सहूलियत होती है तो पलट जाते हैं।
No question that
क्या आपने ये
after
मांग नहीं
2014,
करी थी नीतीश कुमार जी
there has been a really
कि लालू प्रसाद यादव जी पे
profound
राबड़ी देवी जी पे,
transformation in the
तेजस्वी
way
यादव
in
पर,
which India has approached its
भ्रष्टाचार
matters.
के गंभीर आरोप है, इसलिए कार्रवाई होनी
And
चाहिए।
as I said, a lot of it
आज
is because
जब कार्रवाई हो रही
actually
है
you can say it's the Indian leadership.
सागर एसपी
system,
तरुण
but
नायक
ये जो
एवं कलेक्टर भी
भ्रष्टाचारी
We've
हैं,
gone back to the basics
प्रथम
and
दृष्टया
asked ourselves the question,
जिनको
what
न्यायालय
kind of
से
relationship do we want with our neighbors?
ना इनका
So if you
मामला
ask
निरस्त
me
हो रहा है
what
ना
has changed,
कई
I
ऐसे
would
मामले हैं
say,
जब बेल भी नहीं मिल रही।
look,
तो आपको ये
if
बताना
you use
चाहिए
the metrics of connectivity,
कि आज
of projects,
आप तथ्यों पे बात क्यों नहीं करते?
different kinds of
अगर आप लोगों
developmental partnership expressions.
कहना
So
ये
one
है कि
part of it
राजनीतिक
is what
द्वेष से
is
ये
it
मामले
we're
हो रहे
doing.
हैं।
Another part is how are we doing it?
तो फिर ये बताइए कि न्यायालय
दीपक
जाकर
आर्य ने बड़े उमंग और
And
उत्साह
the
के
third
साथ
is really
ढोल
ये
बाज
सारे जो मुकदमे हैं
sweeping
इनको
scale
निरस्त
of
क्यों नहीं
what we
करा?
are doing. And finally, that
और
sense
देखिए
that
विरोधाभास
today,
एक और है।
our fortunes are all tied together.
मनीष
I would
सिसोदिया की
honestly, very objectively say
गिरफ्तारी
that
हुई।
each of these metrics, there's actually been a big
जब ये
change
गिरफ्तारी
in the
हुई
case.
तो
And let me
कांग्रेस
illustrate.
ने
Okay.
इस गिरफ्तारी
I
का
will-
स्वागत किया।
Let me, for example, point to Maldives.
उसने कहा ये ठीक गिरफ्तारी है।
Today, if you
जनता
have
कह रही है कि
in Maldives
ये कैसे
a
मापदंड
very
हैं
major
जिसमें ये
connectivity
भ्रष्टाचारी
project,
कहते
like the
हैं
Greater Malay Connectivity
मेरा
Project.
भ्रष्टाचार
We've never done a project of
बहुत
that
अच्छा।
scale in our neighborhood. In fact,
इस
we've never done a
भ्रष्टाचार में
project of
कोई
that
गलती
scale
नहीं करी।
anywhere in the world.
और दूसरे का भ्रष्टाचार
If
खराब
you were
है
to,
इसके खिलाफ
again,
कार्रवाई कर दो।
I was there
क्या ये कोई
a few
पैमाना
weeks
हो
ago, laying the foundation
मैं इतना ही
stone
कहूंगा।
of an airport lengthening project we're doing,
पुराना
because we do realize
कांग्रेस
that by
सरकार का समय था।
modernizing that airport, giving it
न्यूज़पेपर खोलिए,
greater
केवल
capacity,
घोटाला।
a whole new set of islands now
2G
have
घोटाला,
access to
122
international tourism in a way in which they
स्पेक्ट्रम
didn't,
के
and that
लाइसेंस
very
सर्वोच्च
directly
न्यायालय
feeds
ने
into
रद्द
the
किए।
GDP. So that one
कोलगेट घोटाला,
airport
कांग्रेस
project
के समय
actually
का
has an
214
enormous multiplier effect on their
जो
economy. Now,
माइनिंग के
I'm giving you
लाइसेंस थे,
two
उसको
big
सुप्रीम कोर्ट
examples,
ने
but
रद्द
there
किया।
are examples we had
CWG
these,
घोटाला।
in the
खेल
south,
भी
in
कराएंगे
Nadu.
तो उसमें भी अपनी कमीशन
There
अपना
are a
कट।
whole set of
जीजा जी,
practical
जीजा जी घोटाला,
development projects of
किसानों
a
की
community
जमीन हड़प
kind,
रहे।
which actually
आज
people appreciate. When they think
जनता
of
की उम्मीद
international
ये है
cooperation, it's a nice
कि
word,
कोई भी
but
भ्रष्टाचारी
that means that
उस
they've just got
भ्रष्टाचारी
a
को ये
water
एहसास हो
purification
कि कानून
plant
का
or
डंडा कितना
a
मजबूत है।
electricity connection or
जनता की
better
उम्मीद ये
roads
है।
or a sewage system.
और
It
इसीलिए
means the world.
आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र
सागर
मोदी जी
एसपी
को
तरुण
आश्वासन
नायक
दिया
एवं कलेक्टर
Now, to differing degrees,
कि इन
in every
भ्रष्टाचारियों को
one
ये
of
पता चले
our
कि कानून से
neighboring
ऊपर ये नहीं।
countries. I mean, again, if I'm just using, since you
और
asked
सबसे
this
बड़ी
question,
बात है,
a decade as a differential.
जनता की
नमस्कार, आप देख
Beyond
रहे हैं
today,
न्यूज 24/7 इंडिया। मैं
supplying
जो
electricity
भ्रष्टाचारी ये सोचते हैं
to our neighbors, except Bhutan, from whom we are buying
भ्रष्टाचार
electricity.
मेरा जन्म
And now, by the way,
अधिकार
they've
है।
started to buy electricity from Nepal
जनता
as
कह
well.
रही है
Now, to my mind, giving
न्याय
them,
होगा।
selling them electricity is
भ्रष्टाचार
very
से जो
important
रुपया
because they need
वसूला
it.
है उसको
Buying
वापस इन
electricity
लोगों
from
से
them is
वसूलना
equally
और
important
जनता
because
के
it's
हित में लगाना
a regular
ये जनता
revenue
का
source for
अधिकार
them.
है। ये लोकतंत्र का
So, and now
और
that's
इसी
only
सोच से
possible if we,
जांच
along
एजेंसियां
with them,
अपना कार्य
build
करती
the
हैं।
grid connectivity. A
जब
second example.
भ्रष्टाचारी
many of our neighbors
पकड़े
are
जाते
actually
हैं।
paying much higher prices for their energy.
तो ये
Nepal
कभी
was a
भी
very prime example.
उस मुद्दे पर
Because
बात नहीं
energy,
करते।
petrol and diesel used to be trucked in.
इनमें
Now, when
इतनी
we
नैतिकता
built
नहीं
this
बची कि बाहर निकल कर
pipeline
आए और
from
जनता को
Motihari to
बताएं कि
Amlekar,
आरोप ये हैं
it's brought down
और सत्य ये है कि
prices of
प्रमाण है,
fuel
ये
very,
साक्ष्य
very
हैं।
significantly
और
in
देखिए
Nepal.
हम आपकी अदालत में
You know,
भी
we
आए।
built roads in
और हम
the
सिद्ध
what are
कर
called
रहे
the
हैं कि
Terai
हम
roads,
लोग
the Hulaki
ईमानदार
roads out there.
नहीं,
I mean, they were there.
अंदर से ये भी
We
जानते
sort of
हैं
modernized them, brought
कि
it
इन्होंने
them.
भ्रष्टाचार
The moment
किया
you
है,
get much broader
जनता
roads,
की
I mean, there's a
कमाई
clear
को लूटा है।
both a
और
supply
इसीलिए
chain and a economic
ये ना ध्यान ले
benefit
जाते हैं
that comes. Now,
और ना
I
जो सवाल
can give
जनता
you a
पूछ रही है
Bangladeshi variant of it. You know, you can see it in
उसका ये
roads, you
उत्तर
can
दे।
see it in rails, you can see it in access to ports, in
तीसरा
waterways.
हमने देखा
So,
बीआरएस
the entire neighborhood actually in the last
की
10 years
नेत्री हैं
today
के कविता
has started to realize frankly that India is
इसका
prepared
शीर्षक
to
हो
put
तो
its money where its
Give me
mouth
the
is.
money.
That these are not just
Give me
sermons
money,
and
give me the
homilies
money.
on good neighbor relationships that
क्यों
we
ऐसा
give
कह
out.
रहे हैं?
It is backed by very solid cooperation projects. And
इनका एक
I
साक्षात्कार
think,
चल रहा
Minister, you would bear me out. I mean, in
उसमें
the case
इनसे
of Bhutan as well.
पूछा
I mean,
गया, इनको
even in
मौका मिला।
this period of the last decade,
आप बताइए
we've had
कि
actually a
आपका
new hydro,
Indo
Mangachu
Spirit
has come on stream hydro project.
बुच्ची बाबू।
We are looking at some very
बुच्ची
big
बाबू।
health commitments,
और
at educational
अरुण पिल्लई
commitments.
इनसे कोई
तो-
संबंध नहीं है।
At one level,
अगर कोई
today the
ईमानदार व्यक्ति
neighborhood
होगा,
actually believes that India
इसके
has a
किसी भी कृत्य
non-reciprocal,
में
I would say a
कोई
collective
गलत कार्य
view, a
कानून
regional view
तोड़ने वाला कृत्य
of
ना
the
हो तो वो
neighborhood,
कहेगा मेरा इनसे
where
कोई लेना देना
the
नहीं। स्पष्ट,
prosperity of India, the resources of India
no if and but,
are actually a
कोई
lifting
लेना देना
tide
नहीं।
for
लेकिन
the entire neighborhood.
ये जो
They
के कविता
also
की
know,
पूछताछ
as you
चल
can
रही
see
है,
from the Sri Lankan experience, that if God forbid
Victim card
something
खेलेंगे।
really catastrophic happens,
लेकिन जो
that
सवाल
India
जनता
is
पूछ
there.
रही है उसका
But
उत्तर
India
नहीं
is
देंगे।
there in a macro
तो इसीलिए इस मंच
economic
से भी
sense, but
दोबारा
India is
ये
also
सवाल
there,
पूछा जाना
by the
चाहिए।
way, in case, you know, you have
ये जो शराब घोटाला है,
a climate event or they had some oil spills
जिसके
and
किंगपिन अरविंद
things like that.
केजरीवाल है,
Go around you know, look, we've all
उसमें
done
के
this beat
कविता
for
जी
many
आपको
years.
भी जनता को बताना
Today when
होगा
you do this beat, you hear very,
कि
very
आपका इंडो स्पिरिट से कोई लेना
different
देना है या नहीं।
feedback about India.
आपको ये
And it's
बताना
also
होगा
reflected
कि बुच्ची
in,
बाबू,
you know, their own,
इनसे आपका कोई लेना देना
sort
है
of,
या नहीं।
their, shall I say, enthusiasm for
और
even in
प्रतीत
business
ऐसा होता है
today in getting
ये
closer. So, you know,
भ्रष्टाचार
again,
इतना
I do
बड़ा
not
है।
make this so much as a political
अब जब
point,
सारी
but
कड़ियां
I
जुड़
do
रही हैं,
say that greater a vision of a
तो
region,
जनता को भी पीड़ा हो रही है कि इन
a very
भ्रष्टाचारियों ने
clear
किस तरह से
direction from the top, that look, please
जनता को लूटा
approach
है
the neighbors
और अपनी
generously,
तिजोरियों को इन्होंने भरा।
non-reciprocally, credibly, do it on the
मैं
ground,
बिल्कुल स्पष्ट
follow
कर
it
दूं,
up, ask, look to see what is
कोई
important
भी
for them.
भ्रष्टाचारी हो,
Try and do
कानून
things
से
which
ऊपर
will
नहीं है,
impact,
कानून अपना
you
काम
know, the
करेगा।
lives of the people. All this I
और
think has
इतनी
really
मजबूती से करेगा
Thank you. I must ask you
कि
a
हर
follow-up
भ्रष्टाचारी
question,
को
Minister Jaishankar, and my
कानून
audience,
से
I know, wants me to ask you this question.
डर
That
लगे
in our
कि
whole
अगर हम
neighborhood
एक
first
रुपए की
policy,
भी
there's one
भ्रष्टाचारी
country to which
दिखाएंगे
you sent
तो
me
जेल
as
की सलाह
Ambassador,
होगी।
High Commissioner
धन्यवाद।
to our West, called Pakistan,
Any
with which
questions?
we have nothing to do, which we are doing nothing about. So, you know, at this point of time when Pakistan is going through some economic difficulties, do you think this is a point when there can be some kind of rapprochement between India and Pakistan?
देखिए इसीलिए मैंने कहा विक्टिम कार्ड और इमोशनल कार्ड।
Obviously, it's in nobody's interest
एक व्यक्ति
that any country, least of all
जब
a neighboring
राजनीति में
country,
है
get into
और उसके
severe economic
परिवार वाले घर पर हैं,
You know, nobody,
मैं समझता हूं
nobody
कि उसको तो
sensible,
और
nobody
जिम्मेदारी
mature
से
would even
अपनी
nurse
जिम्मेदारी
that
का
thought.
निर्वहन करना चाहिए।
But it's an equal
कानून
fact
की नजरों
that
में
when
और जनता की
people,
आंखों में
any country gets into a serious economic problem,
अपने
that
परिवार
country
वालों का
has to
हवाला
make
देना
policy choices and governance
ये कोई
decisions
तर्क नहीं हो
to
सकता,
get themselves out of it.
ना ही ये किसी न्यायालय में चले।
Another country, neighbor or
और
non-neighbor or
परिवार के
another
जब
institution,
सदस्य
Others
खुद
cannot
भ्रष्टाचार
solve
के
a
आरोप में
problem
लिप्त
if you're
हो।
not prepared to solve it yourself.
लालू
So
प्रसाद
let's
यादव,
be clear
सागर
on the
एसपी
first
तरुण नायक एवं कलेक्टर दीपक आर्य ने
The
बड़े
solution
उमंग
is
और
not a partisan
उत्साह के
solution,
साथ
it's a generic
ढोल बाजे
solution.
एवं डीजे पर
Any country
थिरकते हुए
with
मनाई होली
economic difficulties
पुलिस स्टाफ के
has to
साथ होली
come out
खेलते
of
हुए
it.
क्या
आए
जांच
नजर।
एजेंसी अपना काम
What
नहीं
the
सागर
world
से
can do
भुजबल
is to
जोगी की
provide
खास
और जहां तक
systems
टाइमिंग
and
की बात
support
है,
systems. But
मैं ये
the
कहूंगा
bottom
कि
line has to be done
यही
by that
फर्क
country
है।
and often it will require very tough
कांग्रेस के
choices.
समय में
Now,
सीबीआई पिंजरे का
I
तोता
want
है,
all
ये
of us to
सर्वोच्च